Alright, then I saw This Is the End, which I was hyped for. I've been hyped for this movie ever since I heard about it. It must have been like a year and a half ago that I heard about it. It's a movie, it stars, a lot of the people from the Judd Apatow group. You got Seth Rogen, Jonah Hill, James Franco, Danny McBride, Craig Ferguson. I swear there was one more. Oh, Jay Baruchel. I think it's his last name. He's in Fanboys. I have that movie, but they're all in it, and they all play themselves, like literally like their selves, as if, and they're in like a world. They're like in Hollywood during a party, and then like the end of the world happens, and what I found, this movie I wasn't expecting to be like, oh my god, greatest movie ever. I was just expecting some good old comedy fun, and this movie literally became one of the best movies of this year. And I say that with a very, I will fight, I not fight, but I am very strongly like supporting that this was one of the best movies of the year. It was a very good plot. It had very good humor. It made very good references. They weren't like throwaway references. Like, these references were very enjoyable. And this movie, it doesn't try to stay true to like, they're having so much fun, and you can tell that. And they don't add any structure to like if a person was playing themselves, they'd be like, well, in real life I wouldn't do that. They don't really they don't really try to do that. They really try to have fun with what they could get their character to do. See how stupid of the situations can get. And the story is pretty good. I mean, it's pretty much just them hanging out at a house, but the end of the world, I originally thought was just going to be like, oh, it's just like the world's crumbling apart, blah, blah, blah. No, it ends up being like the rapture. And this movie actually represents it pretty good. I mean, the whole thing with them, like, swearing in heaven, I'm not, or drinking in heaven, and I don't know about that. But, everything else is pretty dang close to what I've heard about this rapture thing. It was really, I was surprised by how good it was. And the characters are really good. Danny McBride, who, he's hilarious in this movie. I will just say that much. And, every character is pretty good in this movie. I will say this was one of the best movies of the year. I don't really know how much more to say about it. It was a very good, it was very funny. It was very smartly written. It was very... And like a lot of people might be saying, oh, well, it's so cheaply made because they just play themselves. Yeah, but there's way more to it than that. It's very much, and you don't have to know these actors to enjoy it. You don't have to know all these people. I thought it'd be like that, but it's not. It's very, very open to its audience. And what's funny is this is probably one of the least raunchiest of all of the of their movies, because usually they show tons of random nudity, and they show tons of I don't know, something about random nudity in films, especially comedies when they do it. But this movie literally, I don't think had any nudity in it, and I don't think it had any it didn't have any random stuff like, oh my god, why do you just put that there just to be raunchy? No, everything that was in it made sense, and it was so good. I would recommend this movie to pretty much anyone who loves comedies, who loves this group, who loves, I don't know, even good special effects movies. Because the effects in these movies are actually pretty good. I mean, I was expecting them to be stupid, and maybe a lot of people think they're stupid, but I thought they were pretty good. So, yeah, this is the end. I'd say go rent it out, buy it, do whatever you can to see it. Man of Steel. Man of Steel. Okay, it's a new Superman movie. Okay, you've all heard of this movie. You've all seen the reviews. You've seen how split the internet's about it. And yeah, a lot of people are saying it's very good, and there's a lot of people who think it's very bad. And I'm kind of in the middle, but I'm leaning a little bit more towards the bad. I think the reason for that is because, as good as the movie's not terrible. It's not terrible, and don't let anyone tell you, oh, it's the worst movie ever. It's not. It's not the worst movie ever. But I can totally see why someone would be disappointed, and I can see why someone would like it. It's finally Superman coming out and being powerful, and they're showing all these special effects on him, and it's good. That's what Superman needs. He looks very much, he's realistic in this movie. But I think my main problem with it was that the person playing Superman does a great job, but it became very much a movie about, oh, it's Superman, and he's amazing, and it's like, they're almost like celebrating how great the movie is before it was even done. And I don't know, there was something about it that it dragged on for a long time. The ending fight scene was too long. But what's weird is a lot of things that people complain about I didn't really think were annoying. Like him, well, I don't want to ruin this for you, so spoiler alert, I guess, but I think most of you already know this, but Zod ends up getting killed. And Superman usually never kills, supposedly. I don't know about that. But yeah, Superman supposedly doesn't kill, but he kills Zod. But I thought that scene was handled well. And you know what's funny? When I saw it, I didn't even know Superman can't kill people, so I thought that was normal, and I could see how it affected him. But the things I think that really annoyed me about this movie was just, it wasn't the speeches, because, I like those kind of speeches. I'm a big Christopher Nolan fan, and you could tell Christopher Nolan put those in the movie. But the thing that really got me annoyed about this movie was literally just how they're almost celebrating the fact that, oh, it's Superman. And it's like, yeah, but I'm not a fan of Superman. I know nothing about the movies, the TV shows, the cartoon shows, the comic books, the merchandise. I don't know anything about this guy. And they're showing him like, Superman, here he is. It's like, I'd like to know a little bit more about him. And there's not enough of that. The flashbacks are great. The parts where he's young are great. When he's a younger adult, too. Those are great. The scene where he saves everybody from a boat, that's great. The opening scene was great. Zod, as a villain, is great. And, Superman, the actor who played him was great. But everything else, it's like, when we get towards the end, it's like, oh my god, what are we even, like... And it's like he's not really saving anybody by destroying buildings. And I know he's not used to his powers. You can use so many different arguments, but the point is, there's so many explosions, like, what am I even supposed to... I don't know why I'm supporting this guy. I don't really know how to explain this, but it's just... This movie was very... For as built up as it was in the beginning, like, oh, you're amazing, it just became a very dull climax. And it seemed almost like they were just setting up for the fact that they could have more movies. Because, the ending set up like, there's going to be a sequel. And, you know what, I think the sequel could be better. That's kind of how the ending sets it up. But other than that, the rest of the movie is very just generic. It's almost like they kind of think you already know the story before you go in there. And it's like, I don't know the story. You got to tell me again. They really don't. And I guess that kind of bothered me. There wasn't really much of a story element as much as there was... it was like a Superman element. It was just literally just, hey, Superman's amazing. Great. I didn't really understand why. I wish you could explain, but yeah, Man of Steel. Maybe I need to rewatch it, but yeah, there you go, Man of Steel. And then there was Monsters University, which a lot of people were kind of mixed about. Me, I loved it. I thought the whole movie was great. I thought the humor was great. I thought the jokes were great. Even though it's a lot like a lot of other college flicks, I enjoyed it. And I liked how Pixar did something different. I don't know why they did a prequel to Monsters, Inc. I mean, really? Come on, there's so many ideas for The Incredibles 2. I'm not going to go over that again, but, yeah, Monsters University was, that was pretty good. I actually really liked it. I thought the moral of that movie especially was very, very unique. Because, as we all know, Mike wants to really be a scarer, but as we can see from the first movie, he isn't a scarer, and we gotta learn why. Well, the thing is, he just can't be a scarer no matter how hard he tries. And that's very true to how the world is. I mean, as much as we want to do certain things and this and that and want to succeed in a dream we have, sometimes those dreams are just literally impossible for certain people to achieve. But that doesn't mean you have no place in the world, and it's like, that's what kind of the movie's about. I mean, and there's spots in it where it becomes much more a movie about, oh, Mike and Sully hate each other, and we all know they're going to be friends in the end. But, you know, the movie I thought was very enjoyable, especially ever since seeing, I didn't see Cars 2, I heard it was a disappointment. And then I saw Brave, I wasn't really wowed by it. It's like, from what I hear, they're having kind of a downfall at Pixar. Not much of a downfall, but kind of like, their movies aren't as great as, they haven't been great since Toy Story 3. It's like, oh no. But I thought Monsters U was kind of bringing it back. And you know, they're taking a year off now. They're not having a movie next year. So I'm hoping they're really working hard on their next projects. Because, you know, I love Pixar. I want them to do good. And I thought Monsters U was good. I know not the whole world thought that, because usually Pixar movies are acclaimed, but this one was kind of like, oh, we didn't like it, but they liked it. But Monsters U I thought was good, and I'm really excited for their next project. Everything about Monsters U, the look of it is really good. The colors of it are good. John Goodman and Billy Crystal are back. They're both enjoyable, like how they were in the first movie. There's just a lot to like about this movie. Plus, of course, my favorite, what's his name? Charlie Day from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He's like one of my favorite actors right now, because I think he's just so funny. He's in this movie, plays this thing with like 2 arms, and it's got a head. It's like it's also its legs. But yeah, he's hilarious in the movie. Everything he says is just... Yeah, but, you know, if a lot of people have been saying, oh, it's not good, you know, I'd still give it a watch. I mean, I'd give it a chance, at least, if you haven't given it a chance already. But yep, that's Monsters U, next movie. Alright, then there was Two Guns, because, you know, there's like 2 people, and they got 2 guns, and this movie was just, you know, this was stupid old fun. And, you know, there's sometimes we need some stupid old fun. These characters, there's a ton of genericness to it, but I never got annoyed of it. I thought it was fun. I thought this whole movie was fun. It pretty much throws in every single, like action movie cliche into it. But the reason it works so well is that they're having so much fun with it. These people making this movie must have had a fun time making the movie, because I thought it was really fun to watch. I don't really have much more to say about it other than it's fun to watch. If you're looking for something that's just not really stupid, but just good old action fun, I'd check this out. And, you know, surprisingly, there is a pretty good, shocker in the movie. There's someone dies that I actually did not expect to get killed, but they did. And I was like, oh, they actually did that? But, you know, I really like this movie. I mean, not really liked it. I mean, obviously, it still has major problems, but they can be ignored so easily because, you know, going into the movie and the way it starts out, you're like, oh, it's one of those movies, isn't it? It's just kind of stupid old action fun, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you really like stupid old action fun, or you just want to have stupid movie night with your friends, I'd check it out because, you know, it's Mark Wahlberg. There's nothing wrong with Mark Wahlberg. Or Denzel Washington. There's nothing wrong with Denzel Washington. I've seen it. I saw it again on DVD, and, you know, it's still not that memorable, but I still can't say I hated it or didn't get enjoyment out of it. So if you're bored one weekend, check it out. We're the Millers, which, what's that guy's name who's in it? He used to be on Jason Sudeikis, that's his name. Jason Sudeikis, I really like him. I like Ed Helms. I like Jennifer Aniston. I love Emma Roberts. I don't know who that other kid was. He's not that famous, but he was hilarious in this movie. The whole movie was just, you know, it was just one of these comedies come out every year. Like 2 years ago it was Hall Pass. A year later it was I don't know what it was last year, but, you know, actually just pretty much every year there's this one comedy that isn't this big monumental amazing comedy, but it's still there just to make us laugh. And this movie was pretty much that. It was very simple idea, and it just made you laugh. I loved it because, you know, it's always good to get a laugh out of something. It wasn't that great because, you know, it's like, it still has those moments like a lot of comedies have where it's got to have the sentimental moments. Like, oh, we got to be all sentimental and we got to have a good moral in it. Or some kind of moral. Or confused moral. And it's like, a lot of movies did that this year, except for This Is the End. I think This Is the End is the only movie where they did not try to make it super sentimental, but they were just hardcore, went with their gut on something, and they did not back down. But every other movie, Hangover 3, Identity Theft, and this one all did it. But, you know, this movie, We're the Millers, did it the best, and it was pretty funny. If you're looking for something funny, check it out. I enjoyed it enough. It was pretty funny, especially from the other comedies this year. This movie was definitely a lot funnier. I'd check it out if you're into comedies because... Oh yeah, by the way, Jennifer Aniston, she strips in this movie. I guess you can call that fan service. But, you know, this movie, it was... I'd say it was really funny. Ed Helms as this boss. I think it was a boss anyway. He's like this drug lord boss or whatever he is, but he's like having so much fun doing this movie. And it's like you have fun with him. You have fun with this entire movie. I loved it. So if you want to check out a good comedy, I'd check it out. Alright, Kick Butt 2. I'm not going to swear on camera because you know me, I don't ever swear on camera. I don't know why, but anyway, Kick Butt 2. I was really anticipated for this movie. As a lot of you might already know if you've seen my top 30 movies ever, Kick Butt, the first one, is one of my favorite movies ever. I thought it was good comedy. It mixes a lot of good things. It has one of the most amazing action sequences ever. It's got great comedy. It's got great characters, got a great tone, and it's just got a good sense of humor. And an original idea that I've never seen done before, and it does it so well. And the sequel really started to change the tone a lot. It doesn't have that same kind of humor. There's still comedy in it, but it's not the same kind of humor. The action, there are some good sequences, but it's not as good as the first one. It's not as colorful as the first one either. And they had this whole storyline with Chloe Moretz Jr. Or Jr. That's not her name. Chloe Moretz Grace. Anyway, but they have like a whole like side story about her, which really isn't that interesting. The whole thing about her being a teenage girl trying to be a normal teen, I didn't think that was interesting. But you know, the whole rest of the movie as a whole, it was pretty good. Pretty okay. I wouldn't say it was a super great movie. I was expecting way more, but I wasn't really hateful of it or despising it. The one thing I really liked about it was Jim Carrey, but he was only in it for like 5 minutes, and that ticked me off because I actually liked where he was going. He could have been a big part of the movie, but they got rid of him. You know, that's the thing about this movie. They would start so many different kind of storylines or have a good plot thing, like a plot thread going on. And every time you thought, oh, this is going somewhere good, but then they'd like slice it off and they'd be like, nope, now we're doing this. And it just kept happening and happening where they would keep changing their mind about what kind of movie they were doing. And it ticked me off. But you know, when they do show up these new plot threads, they are good. They just aren't shown as much as I wish they would have been shown. They just cut them off too early. And, you know, whatever. I mean, the first one was genius. It's a piece of art. But this movie was very much... I don't think they were trying to recreate what they did with the first one. They weren't trying to recreate it, but they really weren't going for the same tone. It became very much more a generic action sequel, which I don't really want to see. And you know, I hear something about Kick Butt 3, and in the end of Kick Butt 2, they try to like make you like they're trying to tell the audience that there might be a third one, but I don't see a point. I don't see a point in it. But you know, if you like the first Kick Butt, why not go check out Kick Butt 2. I guess I wouldn't really recommend it, but I wasn't bored. I guess it was sort of worth it for the action, but other than that, it was very, very unmemorable. There was almost nothing I remembered from it after like 5 minutes of seeing it. While with the first one, I remembered for like months after seeing it. So, Kick Butt 2. Not as great as the first. Not much of a sequel. Check it out if you like action, I guess. So, as I said in the beginning, 2013 was kind of boring. And then finally, a movie finally came out that absolutely kept me to the edge of my seat for the entire time. That this year was Gravity. Gravity was one of the best movies of the year. And it was my favorite movie until a movie that we'll get to later. But this was an amazing movie. Everything about it. It wasn't really focused on plot. But the things they did focus on were amazing. The effects are amazing in this movie. The camera design, the cinematography, the music, the direction. I hope he gets I hope Alfonso Cuarón, I think that's his name. I think that's how you say it. If I'm saying it wrong, my bad. But it's Alfonso Cuarón or something like that. I wish I could actually say people's names. But anyway, he does an amazing job directing it, and I hope he gets nominated for an Oscar. This movie really does deserve it. It really, and a lot of people a lot of people like this movie, but they were also saying it's just a popcorn movie. I didn't think so. This movie was beautiful. And if you haven't seen it on the big screen, and it's still on a big screen near your town, please go see it. This movie needs to be seen on the big screen. It needs to be seen in 3D. I saw this movie twice, both times in 3D, and I hate 3D. I think 3D is terrible. It never does it right. They don't know how to use, I can't talk right now. They don't know how to use 3D at all. But Gravity took advantage of the 3D. It felt so close and so real, and it gripped you so tight. There were moments where there was stuff flying at the screen. I was literally scared. And maybe it would be just as good in 2D, but this movie in 3D on the big screen was amazing. Sandra Bullock is amazing. George Clooney was amazing. Those are the only two actors in this movie. And you get so, it's not much of a plot, but you, get so tranced and enticed to get her, to this character. You really want her to succeed. And the only real problem I have with the movie is that she does, when there's emotions she's having, she kind of, when she finally has a big turnaround moment, they don't just let the music take over and let the scene play out. They more have her, kind of explain, but, have her talking to herself and let her explain, which kind of was annoying towards the end, because it's we know what you're feeling right now. If people are paying attention, we'd understand what you're feeling, what you need to do, what your big turnaround. We understand your big turnaround from how you were in the beginning of the movie. But instead she explains it. But it never becomes annoying. And then, yeah, the music is so good. I have some of the songs on my iPod. It's some of the best music of this year. And the scenes were amazing. This whole movie is just so good. And it's only 90 minutes long, but I wish it was longer. I wish it would go on all day. I wish I could watch that movie. A 10-hour version of that. Okay, maybe not 10 hours. But, I didn't want it to end. Usually, I know a movie's good if I don't want it to end. And that movie, I was so sad to see end. Because I was like, no, it was so good. I wanted to go on all day. It was too short. But Gravity, if you haven't seen it, please see it and really try hard to see it on the big screen. Alright, then there was Catching Fire, the Hunger Games Catching Fire. Is that what they're calling it? Hunger Games trilogy? Hunger Games series. I don't know what Hunger Games Saga? Catching Fire? I don't know. Pretty much, it was Catching Fire. The new sequel to the Hunger Games. This movie improves everything from the first movie. The thoughts on the first movie, it was mostly, I liked it, but I was very annoyed by a lot of how it was shot. I was annoyed by the colors of it, because even when she got to the Capitol, it wasn't as bright and bubbly as I thought it would be, because they're kind of making fun of it, and I don't know, they're trying to make fun of their clothing, and the way they dress and the way they look, how the Capitol looks. But when they got there, it wasn't really colorful at all. I was like, oh, well, this is pretty. It just pretty much the colors of the first movie were really boring, but everything else about it was pretty. It was pretty solid. And then Catching Fire pretty much improves everything. They improve Katniss so much, who's someone who really annoyed me in the first movie because I didn't understand. Maybe it's because I'm not a big fan of the Hunger Games. I'm not. I won't call myself a fan, huge fan, but I like them. I like the movies. I like the books. The one book I've read the first one. I didn't read the book of Catching Fire yet, which I should, because I saw Hunger Games. I liked it, but I liked it a bit. But then I read the book, and I started to hate the Hunger Games movie a little more because I realized the book was way better. But Catching Fire, it was good. They follow a lot of action cliches, this and that, but the twist at the end really surprised me. And the characters in this movie are so much better. In the first movie, Katniss, it seemed like she kind of hated everyone, which I guess was understandable, but even Peeta, I felt really bad for him because she was kind of screwing him over, and I didn't, I mean, your audience should know why, but at the same time, I'm like, you're kind of a jerk. But in this one, she isn't played out like a jerk anymore. All the characters are well done. The new characters are well done. There's this one character in the scene, she completely strips naked, and I thought, oh god, she's gonna be one of those characters, isn't it? Just random scene for no reason. But no, later on, she comes back, and she's one of the best characters of the movie. There's this guy named Finnick, who I thought, oh god, this is gonna be the guy that all the girls go crazy for, but really he has no character. No, he's one of the best characters in the movie. He is so awesome. The new characters in this movie are really awesome, and I'm really excited. I'm actually excited to see Mockingjay. I wasn't really excited to see this movie, because I was like, oh, another Hunger Games. That's pretty much all I was thinking, was oh, that was my reaction. But Mockingjay, I'm actually really excited, which it's disappointing that they're dividing it into two, because it's the first movie is going to be just bleh, because that's what always happens with these two-part movies. The first one's always going to be bleh. It's like Harry Potter Part 1, ugh. The Hobbit Part 1, bleh. They're kind of bleh movies. But then Part 2, I'm actually probably more excited for Part 2, which comes out in 2 years. I don't know why they gotta divide it into two. I don't get why movies are doing that. It just ticks people like me off. I mean, maybe it makes the fans happy that the series is gonna go on longer, but people like me who are just casual watchers, who actually for some reason get excited because the sequel ends up being actually really good, and then have to wait 2 years to get to the point where they want to get to, I don't want to wait 2 years, but I have to. Everyone else has to, but I did. The Hunger Games, the Hunger Games, the Hunger Games. There's a lot of heaviness to these movies. There's a lot of things going on. This one is a lot more colorful. The camera is a lot more held, not shaky cam, but they actually hold on to the camera pretty solidly. It doesn't focus way too much. It doesn't. Maybe that's because there's not as much murder in this movie as there was in the first movie, so they don't have to cover up anything. But there's a lot more there's a lot, a bunch of new obstacles in this movie, and there's a lot more, heaviness to their emotions, and there's a lot more digging deeper into the problems with reality TV, and marketing, and this and that, or not shoving marketing in your face, or shoving this and that, you gotta act this way, you gotta do that, you gotta do that, gotta do that. There's a lot of that in this movie, a lot of, bringing up the problems for all the audience to see. And what I always love is they never completely explain why it's bad. They let us understand it. They let us figure it out ourselves, which I love about these movies. They never say, see, reality TV's bad. No, we understand what they're slamming at, and they're giving us a chance to make our own analysis of the movie. And I love that about these movies. This sequel was really good. I would recommend it. I definitely would.